ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 7 o'clock main news. In tonight's headlines, His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah attends the inauguration ceremony of His Excellency the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah Al Sisi. Former Army Chief Abdel Fattah Al Sisi is sworn in today as Egypt's new president after a landslide win in May elections. Pope Francis readies for peace prayer session with Israeli President Shimon Peres and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. A wave of car bombs in Baghdad kills 60 people and militants storm Ramadi University campus. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah and his accompanying official delegation left Cairo International Airport this afternoon after attending the inauguration ceremony of His Excellency the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah Al Sisi. His Highness the Emir was seen off at the airport by the Minister of Tourism Hisham Zazour, Kuwait's Ambassador to Egypt Salim Zamanan, Kuwait's Permanent Delegate to the Arab League Ambassador Aziz Al-Dehani, and members of Kuwait's Embassy in Egypt. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah met this afternoon with His Excellency the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah Al Sisi at the permanent headquarters of the Egyptian Presidency in the capital Cairo. During the meeting, they exchanged cordial talks that reflected the depth of bilateral relations and discussed means of boosting mutual cooperation in all domains to serve the interests of both countries. They also reviewed issues of common concern and the latest regional and international developments. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah and his accompanying official delegation arrived at Cairo International Airport this morning to attend the inauguration ceremony of His Excellency the Egyptian President-elect Abdel Fattah Al Sisi. His Highness the Emir was received at the airport by the Minister of Civil Aviation Hussam Kamal Abul Khair, Kuwait's Ambassador to Egypt Salim Zamanan, Kuwait's Permanent Delegate to the Arab League Ambassador Aziz Al-Dehani, and members of Kuwait's Embassy in Egypt. Earlier today, His Highness the Emir and his accompanying official delegation left Kuwait heading for Egypt to attend the inauguration ceremony of His Excellency the new Egyptian President Abdel Fattah Al Sisi. His Highness the Emir was seen off at Kuwait International Airport by His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah, the National Assembly Speaker Marzouk Ali Al Ghanem, Sheikhs, the Deputy Chief of the National Guard Sheikh Mish'al Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah, the Minister of Emir Diwan Affairs Sheikh Nasser Sabah Al Ahmed Al Sabah, ministers, governors, senior state officials, top commanders of the Army, Police and National Guard. The official delegation accompanying His Highness the Emir comprises the First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister, Sheikh Sabah Al Khalid Al Hamad Al Sabah, the Director of His Highness the Emir's Office, Ahmed Fahd Al Fahd, Emir Diwan Advisors Yusuf Hamad Al Ibrahim and Lieutenant General Khalid Abdullah Bouday, the Head of Emir Protocol and Ceremony, Sheikh Khalid Al Abdullah Al Sabah Al Nasser Al Sabah, and senior officials of the Emiri Diwan. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah and his accompanying official delegation at noon today attended the inauguration ceremony of His Excellency the new Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi at the permanent headquarters of the Egyptian Presidency in the capital, Cairo. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah attended a luncheon hosted by His Excellency the new Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi at the permanent headquarters of the Egyptian Presidency in the capital, Cairo. His Highness Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah received this morning at Bayan Palace the National Assembly Speaker Marzouk Ali Al Ghanem. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince then received His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al Mbarak Al Hamad Al Sabah, the Prime Minister. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince also received the Deputy Premier, Minister of Interior and Acting Minister of Awqaf and Islamic Affairs Sheikh Mohammed Al Khalid Al Hamad Al Sabah. Later on, His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince received the Deputy Premier and Minister of Defence Sheikh Khalid Al Jarrah Al Sabah. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince then received the Minister of Information and Minister of State for Youth Affairs Sheikh Salman Sabah Al Salim Al Mahmoud Al Sabah. Finally, His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince received the Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs and Acting Minister of Justice Sheikh Mohammed Abdul Al Mbarak Al Sabah. The Speaker of the Albanian Parliament, Elir Meta, and his accompanying delegation arrived in Kuwait at noon today on a few-day official visit. The Albanian official and his accompanying delegation were received by the National Assembly Speaker Marzouk Ali Al Ghanem, the head of the accompanying Mission of Honour and Permanent Observer Saoud Nashmi Al Hreji, Kuwait's Ambassador to Albania Najib Abdurrahman Al Badr, Albania's Ambassador to Kuwait Kawaitem Morena, the National Assembly Secretary General Allam Ali Al-Kindari, Assistant Secretary General for Members' Affairs, Public Relations and Media Sami Shaya, as well as senior employees of the General Secretariat. Speaker Meta is scheduled to meet with Speaker Al Ghanem, His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al Mbarak Al Hamad Al Sabah, the Prime Minister, the First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister Sheikh Sabah Al Khalid Al Hamad Al Sabah, the Minister of Health Dr. Ali Saad Al Abedi, the Director General of the Public Fund for Arab Economic Development and Chairman and members of the Kuwait Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The Speaker of the Albanian Parliament is also scheduled to attend the next Parliament session. Egyptian President-elect Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, along with the former interim President Adli Mansour, signed today a power handover document, which is the first in Egypt's political history, after he was sworn in front of the Supreme Constitutional Court, thus signalling the start of a new 4-year presidential term in the nation. After the swearing-in ceremony, al-Sisi headed to Al-Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace, where he was welcomed with a 21-gun salute before inspecting the Guard of Honor. More details in the following report by Hiba Abdurrahman.
Former Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Sisi sworn in as Egypt's new president after winning elections in May by a landslide. Security forces were deployed at key locations around the capital Cairo ahead of the ceremony at the Supreme Constitutional Court this morning. Liberal and secular activists, including the 6th April Youth Movement, which was prominent in the 2011 revolution that ousted long-serving former President Hosni Mubarak, shunned the 26th and 28th May poll in protest at the curtailing of civil rights. Al-Sisi was sworn in for a 4-year term at a ceremony shown live on television. It comes almost a year after he ousted Egypt's former President Mohamed Morsi following mass protests against his rule. At the swearing-in, the court's deputy head Maher Sami said that it was not a coup and that Sisi was responding to the will of the people. Justices present for the ceremony applauded after Sisi took the oath of office. He replaces the outgoing interim president Adli Mansour, who returns to his post as Chief Justice of the Supreme Constitutional Court. According to the official results in the May elections, he secured 96.9% of the vote, and his sole challenger, left-winger Hamdeen Sabahi, received only 3.1%.
Pope Francis hosted today an unprecedented peace prayer meeting with Israeli President Shimon Peres and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas in a symbolic gesture to foster dialogue, but unlikely to have any immediate effect. The Vatican is realistic about the effects of the ceremony as tensions are running high between the two sides following the formation of a new Palestinian unity government backed by the group Hamas and the announcement of Israeli plans for building 3,200 new settler homes. The head of the Franciscan Order in the Middle East, the organizer of the historic event in the Vatican Gardens, said nobody was fooling themselves that peace would break out in the Holy Land, adding that the Pope wanted to look beyond and upwards. The prayers at the Vatican Gardens will be recited in chronological order of the world's three main monotheistic religions. The Vatican added the prayers would focus on creation, invocation for forgiveness and invocation for peace, and they would be read out in Arabic, English, Hebrew and Italian, in addition to being accompanied by musical interludes. Security and medical sources said a wave of car bombs exploded across Baghdad yesterday, killing more than 60 people. In total, there were dozens blasts in the capital Baghdad, the deadliest of which occurred in Bayar, where a car bomb left 23 people dead. Since Thursday alone, militants have seized parts of Ramadi and Fallujah. On Saturday, they took control of the campus of Anbab University in Ramadi. A member of the Security and Defence Committee in Parliament said the insurgency could not be quelled by force alone because the root cause was political. People on Kosovo are voting today in parliamentary elections seen as vital test for the country's European Union bid. Prime Minister Hashim Thaçi's Democratic Party of Kosovo is hoping to win the polls, giving the former rebel chief his third term in office, but he is facing strong challenge from Democratic League of Kosovo. Some 1.7 million voters are expected to cast their ballots. For the first time since Kosovo's self-declared independence in 2008, Serbia is encouraging ethnic Serbs to vote, a move which will help EU membership and is crucial for EU-brokered talks to help Kosovo normalize relations with Serbia. The elections follow last year's agreement to normalize relations between Belgrade and Pristina as a precondition for their bids to become members of the EU. Under the patronage of the National Guard, the first Actum Forum for Training and Developing Work Performance opened with world-renowned guest speaker Rob Pike, also known as the Trainer's Trainer. The forum is dedicated to improving human development, which is part of the Kuwait's National Development Plan. Established in 2009, DACUM provides consulting and training activities to effectively enhance global practice in the workplace. Sarah Glubb has more from Selwa Hall in Marina Hotel.
The first DACUM Forum for Training and Developing Performance in the Workplace kicked off under the theme "Training is not always the solution," with the aim of introducing a new culture to local and regional organizations.
We have organized an important, beneficial, interesting and fun event for all our participants that deals with training and developing performance under the slogan, "Training is not always the solution." Although it is a strange theme, we have chosen it as we see that training is not the first solution to all our administrative problems. A lack of knowledge or skill is not always the challenge, and if we train our employees, the problems will not necessarily diminish. The challenges may sometimes be due to lack of regulations, inadequate work environments, or underdeveloped strategic plans. So the deficiency lies within the administrative and leadership structure rather than the employee. We have invited international American trainer Robert Pike to present this lecture, and he will discuss 5 methods before having to resort to training in an applied and practical way rather than a theoretical one.
Organised by DACUM Consulting and Training, the forum was held under the patronage of Kuwait National Guard and with the sponsorship of Kuwait University, the Public Authority for Applied Education and Training, Kuwait Oil Company, Kuwait National Petroleum Company, and the Public Authority for Youth and Sports, among others, adding weight to the importance of the event.
When performance is the question, training is the sixth answer. It's a privilege to be here. I've been delighted with the response of the audience, and I'm looking forward to being back in Kuwait after not having been here since 25 years ago. So one of the things that we've been focusing on in the presentation is the fact that we are now living in a knowledge economy. We're not in an industrial age. We're in a knowledge age, and the learning is never going to stop. And one of the things that we really need to do is help people learn how to learn. And right now, one of the differences between training and education is that all too often as educators, it's simply about learning to pass. And in training, we're talking about learning for living, and the focus is on getting results. And I want to see both education and training move closer together so that the learning has application, because the greatest competitive advantage any country has is in its people. It's not even in its resources, whether it be oil or gas or manufacturing. It's really in people that make that happen. And so we have to better equip our people for that new knowledge age that we're in now.
The event targeted individuals and managers from public and private sectors alike, not only in Kuwait but the entire Gulf region as well. An exhibition was held on the sidelines of the event, which also emphasized the importance of investing in education and training human beings as the best investment for any country. From the Selwa Hall in Marina, this is Sarah Glubb reporting for English News.
In a distinguished ceremony attended by ambassadors, chiefs of mission as well as diplomatic personnel, Africa Day, which is an annual event, was celebrated recently at the Regency Hotel. The event marks the anniversary of establishing the Organization of African Unity, or the OAU, in 1963, which later became the African Union, or the AU. Hiba Abdulrahman was there and has this report.
Embassies of all African countries in Kuwait recently celebrated the annual event known as the Africa Day, which coincides this year with the 51st anniversary of establishing the African Union, or the AU, on May 25, 1963. The event was attended by many diplomatic representatives in the country, as well as the Acting Undersecretary of Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Director of Economic Administration at the Ministry, Abdullah Al-Mansour.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank His Highness the Emir of Kuwait and the people of Kuwait for the support it has continued to give to African continent, particularly to my country Kenya. Today is an important occasion. It is the celebration that mark the 51 year of Africa Union. We used to have the Organization of Africa Union. Now we have Africa, the AU, Africa Unity. So it is, it marks the day or the calendar when the African countries, they come together to have a union whereby the policies and decision of which regards the interest of African region is decided.
Well, it is a very important occasion for the African continent. It signifies the unity of the whole of Africa following colonialism. As you will recall, most of Africa was divided during what they called the partitioning of Africa in 1844 in Berlin. And starting from 1958 with the independence of Ghana, all the African countries became liberated and became republics. And thereafter, the first countries to become independent decided that we should form an organization which groups everybody. And we ended up with what we called the African Organization of African Union. And now that has evolved into what we call the African Union, along the same lines as you have the European Union.
The idea of creating the AU was revived in the mid-1990s under the leadership of Libyan head of state Muammar Gaddafi, where the heads of state and government of the AU issued the third declaration on September 9, 1999, calling for the establishment of an African Union. The declaration was followed by summits at Lome in 2000 when the Constitutive Act of the African Union was adopted, and at Lusaka in 2001 when the plan for the implementation of the African Union was adopted. Celebrating the Africa Day, which coincides this year with the 51st anniversary of establishing the African Union, is considered a very important opportunity for Africa to prove to the world that Africa is the future in many fields, such as the development and investment. From the Regency Hotel, this is Hiba Abdurrahman reporting for English News.
Kuwait Stock Exchange ended today's session in the red zone as the weighted index came to 487.38 points, losing 4.83 points. The price index recorded 7,233 points, losing 104.37 points, and the KSX 15 reached 1,191.71 points, losing 12.15 points. Trades came to 4,364, worth 22.9 million Kuwaiti dinars and a volume of just over 17 million shares. Khaliji Reinterpreted held a charity art exhibition celebrating 5 years of Khaliji-esque at the Contemporary Art Platform, which attracted a large audience on its opening night. Participating artists arrived for the prestigious event from GCC states, including Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. Some of the renowned participating artists include Hiba Farhad from Saudi Arabia, Yusuf Al-Ahmed, Saudi Arabia, Sagar Al-Yassin, Kuwait, Ola Dajani, the United Arab Emirates, Janine Sharabi, Bahrain, and Mohammed Al-Kour, Kuwait, to name just a few. More on this with our correspondent, Ghinwa Jabouri.
Khaliji Reinterpreted is aimed at showcasing the essence of contemporary Khaliji culture through the different perspectives of artists living in the Middle East. An interactive showcase, the charity art exhibit, highlights curated artworks, installations and visuals from different local and regional creative artists.
We're celebrating 5 years of Khaliji magazine. Khaliji magazine is an online and print magazine that focuses on everything that happens in the contemporary culture of the Middle East. And we just passed 5 years and we're celebrating with a charity art exhibit supporting Markaz 21, which is a charity that helps physical and mental disabilities of people over 21 years old.
I do three-dimensional illustrations, so they're sculptures. I work with paper mache, paper, clay, anything kind I see around, paint, glitter, anything.
Furthermore, Khaliji Reinterpreted is a charity exhibition that is aimed to support Markaz 21, a charity in Kuwait that provides basic services for individuals with mental and physical disabilities over the age of 21. Markaz 21's main objective is to provide an opportunity for those individuals over 21 to complete their studies, as well as helping regulate their lives and their families in order to help promote self-reliance. A portion of the proceeds from the sale of artworks at the exhibition will go to Markaz 21's mission.
I don't think I've conformed myself, but I do still have that cultural influence. I know where I come from, having lived abroad for so many years. My father was a diplomat. You always know where you come from. That you've picked up on so many different cultures, but you're raised that way, and it's always going to be a part of you. I'm inspired by everything around me, like especially I think colors and nature. Patterns, as I said. I do love to work with patterns and lines and things like that. I do advocate for mental health. My work, I already donate to mental health awareness before this show. So when I heard about this, I really wanted to be a part of it. Currently, I am donating 20% of all my work to the Fawzia Sultan Rehabilitation Institute.
Participating artists portrayed extreme passion and enthusiasm for having their creativity invested in a humanitarian cause, and which they have stated makes it all worth the ride. Khaliji Reinterpreted is a charity art exhibit which aims to provide support to Markaz 21, who provide basic services for individuals with mental and physical disabilities. From the Contemporary Art Platform, I'm Ghinwa Jabouri reporting to you for the English News.
For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. And to recap tonight's news, here are the headlines once again. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah attends the inauguration ceremony of His Excellency the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah Al Sisi. Former Army Chief Abdel Fattah Al Sisi is sworn in today as Egypt's new president after a landslide win in May elections. Pope Francis readies for peace prayer session with Israeli President Shimon Peres and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. And a wave of car bombs in Baghdad kills 60 people and militants storm Ramadi University campus. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.